Meet Chen Yi, 23 years young and currently starring in his own life as a total NPC. He calls himself a fresh grad with a fancy internship, but let's be real, he's just a glorified barista grinding for minimum wage. Trudging down the street after another unpaid overtime cleanup shift, he's muttering curses under his breath. The regret is hitting hard tonight. If he had actually cracked a book in school instead of slacking off, maybe he'd have the cash to blow on that new gaming collection instead of staring at skyscrapers and fantasizing about being rich. Suddenly, a working girl from the red light district slides up. Finally back, handsome, I've been waiting for you. Chen Yi hits the brakes. Wrong guy, lady. She thinks he's playing hard to get and offers him a special discount. Curiosity gets the better of him. Discount, huh? How much we talking? 300, she purrs. Cash or transfer? He scoffs and keeps walking. Definitely the wrong guy. If I had 300 bucks, I'd be leveling up my Steam library, not my love life. The girl is left standing there totally confused. He picks up the pace, gotta get home before the grub gets cold. Bam, he slams right into a delivery driver. Talk about instant service. The guy is holding Chen Yi's exact order. Here's your takeout, bro. Chen Yi grabs the fried chicken and heads upstairs, spiraling into an existential crisis. Some guys get abs, some get charm. But Chen Yi, he got a face so generic he's apparently the default avatar for that guy. 20 years of mistaken identity proves it. He wrestles with his janky door. Open up, you piece of junk, just as the hallway light flickers and dies. Pitch black. Then come the whispers. Delusional, maybe. But when the voices get louder, he freezes. Great. Haunted apartment. Just my luck. He remembers hearing these old buildings are spooky. Voice shaking, he stammers. Yo, spirits. Wrong guy again. Cut to a whole different dimension. A creepy old dude sits on a throne, demanding a sacrifice for the magnificent Lord of Ashes. A girl is dragged forward, screaming for mercy. The old cultist starts chanting, prepping to offer this demon girl to the dark gods. He casts a gnarly spell, commanding her to bleed and strike fear into their hearts. Suddenly, the old man starts shaking violently. Did it work? It's been centuries since a successful summon. He bursts into manic laughter. He is here, Lord of Ashes, arise. The cultists lose their minds, chanting Ares like they're at a heavy metal concert. The girl's eyes snap open. A living sacrifice, the elder screams. We puny mortals aren't worthy to watch this greatness. He orders everyone to bail. The girl starts praying to the Lord of Ashes as thick smoke floods the room. She's fading fast, dizzy and weak, suddenly coughing fit. It's Chen Yi hacking his lungs out in the mysterious fog. I'm dying, too much smoke. He spots the silhouette in the haze. Is that the ghost? He squints, trying to see through the gloom. Wait, definitely solid, definitely tied up. Okay, pretty girls usually aren't ghosts, he mutters, reaching for the ropes. You can't be that bad. She's burning up, totally drenched in sweat. He taps her cheek. Hey, you good? Wake up, do we need a hospital? You look absolutely wrecked. Boom. She drops to her knees in worship. Lord of Ashes, Chen Yi sighs. Look, I know I have a generic face, but you definitely got the wrong guy. It happens all the time. She isn't hearing it. Mighty Lord, your vessel is magnificent, exactly like the legends. A true believer would never mistake you. Chen Yi pauses. This feels a little more complicated than just another case of mistaken identity. What exactly are you seeing here? She rattles off accolades. Mighty, magnificent, he who shall not be named. Chen Yi whispers, You sure about that? She looks terrified, and then just drops to the floor unconscious. Did she just faint from fear? Or is she scamming me? He digs into his bag. He pours a cup of coffee from his thermos. Time out. I need caffeine to process this madness. Thank God for anime and video games. Any normal person would have lost their mind by now. Suddenly she peeks open, one eye. Aha, I knew you were faking it. But then it clicks. She's not a scammer. She's a stan. She truly believes he's an evil god. He did just cross dimensions. So maybe the villain aesthetic is part of the package. Chill out, he says. What's your name? She trembles, shocked that the white-hazed villain destroyer of worlds is actually speaking to a scrub like her. Ina, she squeaks. Chen Yi rolls his eyes internally. Destroyer of worlds, bit dramatic for a guy who just wanted fried chicken. Anna, simple, punchy, impossible to forget. He slides the steaming mug across the table toward her. Chill out, kid, he says, voice smooth. No need to look so terrified. It's yours. Go on, take a sip. To her, that dark liquid isn't caffeine, it's molten lava. Is this how the eldritch gods claim their tribute? By melting them from the inside out. Her fingers are shaking like leaves in a storm as she clutches the cup. I surrender my life to you, my lord. He blinks, confused. Whoa, who said anything about dying? He leans in, eyes narrowing. Who are you really, and why did you drag me here? Don't lie to me. I am merely the vessel, she whispers, head bowed. The lamb for the slaughter. My entire existence belongs to you. I would never deceive a god. He freezes. Sacrifice, wait, back up. That sounds like cult talk. She spills the tea. The city is crawling with fanatics who just torched a living soul to call up the big bad, the Lord of Ashes. Shen Yi connects the dots. Great. They dialed the wrong number and got me instead. Mystery solved. He glances around. So is the ritual over. He locks eyes with her. Here is my absolute command. Live. Be happy. And poof, he fades into thin air. But the moment he's gone, the cult goons swarm her. Grab the girl. She still owes us. Drag her out, they bark. She was born for the altar. She's unfinished business. She should be honored to bleed for the cause. Tears stream down Anna's face, but she smiles. I will live happily, she vows. I will spread his glory for eternity. Generations will know his name. But inside, she's reeling. Why did the Chaos Cult get this reward? They've worshipped the Ash Lord forever. Yet, in thousands of years, he's basically ghosted them. Zero show-ups. A weird thought creeps in. Does the Supreme Dark God just have a thing for teenage girls? She shakes the blasphemy out of her head. I'm just a speck of dust. Who am I to guess a god's vibe? She clutches the cup, now filled with divine blood, tight against her chest. She steps into the downpour. But the rain, it sizzles and vanishes against her fire shield. His protection, she gasps. Even the fury of the elements can't touch the Ash Lord's chosen one. It's nothing like the orphanage. Back there, she was a prisoner. No unauthorized exits. This is her first solo run in the urban jungle. This freedom, this is the real gift. She wanders through Veranda, the crown jewel of Nolan. To her dazzled eyes, it's paradise on earth. She pauses in front of a looming structure. It radiates a strange energy, something special. Focus, Anna. She snaps out of it. Gotta get back to the church before they freak out. Meanwhile, zap, Shen Yi crashes into a random cafe. Where the hell? Thud. Lights out. He snaps awake. Morning sun smell of roasted beans. He scans the room. Definitely a coffee joint. But something feels off. The air, the gravity. He's definitely not in Kansas anymore. Still stuck in creepy church world. Then he spots the wall decor. Photos. Is that me? Before he can spiral, a customer walks in. One iced latte, please. He stares at the portrait again. Why is his face on the wall? Is the owner a stalker, or does he just have one of those generic NPC faces? Whatever, he shrugs. I'm lost, broke, and confused. Might as well make himself useful until the boss shows up. Maybe he can finesse a job out of this. The bell chimes again. Iced Americano extra shot. It's late. He's elbow deep in greasy dishwater, spiraling into an existential crisis. How does a nobody-wage slave end up glitching into a whole different universe? It makes zero sense. He loops the thought over and over, brain still buffering. At least the shop is killing it lately. But where is the owner? If he bails now, he just pulled a 12-hour shift for $0. Nope. He spots a bed and a stocked fridge in the back. Squatter's rights, baby. I'll take room and board as my paycheck. Meanwhile, the plot thickens. The cult drags Anna to Dr. Neon's creeping lair. Knock knock. The door creaks. Neon peeks out, eyes gleaming. Here for the procedure. He looks down. Ah, the little specimen. Bring her in, he hisses. The basement is prepped. It's time for the grand metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. Sounds painful. He leads them down into the gloom. We're here. Now. Where is the fireblood? The cult leader hands over the container. Prepare to be amazed, Doc. We've never scored loot this high tier before. Dr. Neon's grin widens into a smirk. Girl. Raincoat off. On the table. Now. She obeys. Click. He straps her wrists down. Re-ip. He tears the fabric from her arm. Relax. Just a little sedative cocktail to start. The needle slides in. Once you're under, he whispers, the real fun begins. He cracks open the container of divine blood. He freezes. He can't believe the purity. This is perfection. A dark thought crosses his mind. Does the Lord of Ashes have a type? Silver hair, crimson eyes. Is that the key? He's racking his brain trying to figure out why the Lord has such a beef with blonde girls who have blue eyes. Then it hits him a twisted possibility. Maybe the Lord of Ashes just has a thing for younger girls. If that's the sick reality, he figures he'll just play along with whatever the High Priest demands. No one drops the news on Anna. She's going to be the Shrine Maiden. But he clarifies immediately, this isn't about sweeping floors or lighting incense. It's just a label their cult uses. Every sect has their own weird method for picking a chosen one. In the Chaos Cult, a Shrine Maiden is forged by downing the blood of fire. It's a mutation process designed to gift the chosen one with insane supernatural abilities. He mentions that technically this little science project could be done back at the church, but she's here because the cult's investors are in the building. They want a front row seat to see the blood of fire in action. He rambles on. Human flesh is weak, dull, and destined to rot. It disgusts him. That's why everyone in the cult is dying to become a Shrine Maiden. You're the lucky one, he sneers. She's going to evolve past the human race faster than any of them. She'll be the very first Shrine Maiden. That, he decides, is the only briefing she gets. Let's get this party started, he says, signaling for the blood injection. Agony rips through her instantly. Her body convulses for a moment, goes limp, and then she lights out completely. Dr. Noen stares at her motionless body. We failed, he sighs. Looks like she wasn't the chosen one after all. Guess silver hair and red eyes aren't the golden ticket they thought. But then she starts mumbling, whispering that she has to live for the Lord of Ashes. Meanwhile, back at the cafe, our guy is sitting on the bed deep in thought. If he sticks around, maybe he'll cross paths with that kid again. But honestly, he wants zero part of this cult drama. Still, the way she was tied up screams dark arts. Suddenly, the floor beneath him starts to shake. Earthquake, he wonders. Then those chanting voices creep into his head again. Is this a new summoning track? Chen Yi wonders if a girl is involved this time. He smooths his hair ready for the teleport, but then realizes the pull has stopped. Instead, a weird burning sensation flares up in his chest. What is happening? He questions if that pretentious lord of something is messing with him again. Is the guy looking for payback? Then he realizes the heat in his chest has traveled down to his palm. He feels like he's holding a flamethrower. Thinking the coast is clear, he decides to test it out. He casts the spell, and whoosh, fire bursts from his hand. Crap, don't torch the house, he mutters, wrestling the flames down. It actually works. He summons it again, keeping it under tight control this time. He gulps at the implications. Can he shapeshift this stuff? He starts molding the fire like clay. It actually turns out pretty sick. The fire looks cool, but weirdly, he feels zero heat from it. He spots a stack of books nearby. Burning one tiny corner won't hurt, right? He flicks a flame at a page to singe it. Nothing. It doesn't work at all. He tries to crank up the heat, but the paper stays pristine. He chucks the book across the room. What kind of budget magic is this, he complains. Can't even burn a paperback. Total waste of time. Meanwhile, Dr. Noen exits the lab frustrated. Not as easy as I thought, he grumbles. Let's grab a blonde guy next time. He waves off the girl as a problem for later. But then Anna stumbles out and tells the doctor, I made it. Noen does a double take. Did it actually work? She's breathing, which means the experiment was a success. Anna realizes she beat the odds. Her survival rate must have been near zero. It has to be the mighty Lord of Ashes keeping her alive. She was born to serve him. She barks an order to the high priest to prepare the next ritual. Chen Yi is brewing a fresh cup for himself. Time to show him what's good, he mutters. It's been a full month since he got isekai'd here. The real owner vanished, and he hasn't stepped foot outside this coffee shop. It's not legally his, but he's the acting boss now. He has to admit running the place feels pretty sweet. But after 30 days of analyzing his life, the truth hits him. He wants to go home. Badly. The ground starts rumbling again. He hears the chanting voices and then silence. Is that it, he wonders. He locks up the shop. Time to crash. Lying in bed, he thinks about how he's been hearing these summons all month. He figures there are probably 7 different types of summoning spells. He can't keep living like this. He remembers the last time he got pulled, it was just that young girl he saw. But if he runs into a whole squad of cultists next time and they realize he's a total fraud, he is absolutely doomed. He's heard rumors about a high-ranking college called Baden Empire Academy. A fancy college means a library full of secrets. That's his ticket. Suddenly, another summoning wave hits. Here we go again, he sighs, recognizing the signature. It's the spell from that girl's cult. Zap. He teleports. Rewind 10 minutes. The Chaos Cult was just about to kick off their next ritual. The high priest drops the green light, artifacts are prepped, and the ritual begins. Instantly, the chanting kicks off. But honestly, he's skeptical. No way the Lord of Ashes just pops up on command. The high priest figures this is all just theater. A flashy light show to fleece wealthy donors into funding the cult. Sure, he remembers Anna claiming the Lord actually manifested before, but that's just talk. In his book, when a god descends, you don't get a polite visit, you get apocalyptic natural disasters. And checking the recent news, 0 cataclysms. Anna insists the shipment that just landed today is definitely the relic the high priest was hyped about. According to her, these artifacts are dripping with magical energy, so dangerous that demon patrols ban mortals from even touching them. Most are sealed shut. She reminds the doc that only deep-pocketed investors could source a sacrifice this rare. The high priest declares they're feeding this relic to the mighty Lord of Ashes. They cast the spell again, summoning the Destroyer of Worlds to manifest his physical form. Suddenly, whoosh, the candles die. A creepy silence descends. Wait, why did the sound of the rain outside just vanish? He knows the Lord of Ashes has only graced this world twice in 1,000 years. The odds of a second. Summoning happening back-to-back impossible. But then Anna points up, eyes wide. The Lord of Ashes. He has arrived. The cultists freeze in pure awe. A literal god is in the room. Anna steps into the spotlight, voice shaking. We meet again, she whispers, addressing the Lord of Ashes. The high priest is terrified, begging the entity to stay calm, pleading for forgiveness for disturbing his slumber. Meanwhile, Shen Yi is just crouching behind a statue, thinking, bro, I'm not even mad. I'm just super awkward right now. He's trying to figure out why the summon worked this time. When previous attempts were total duds, panic sets in. Is his cover about to get blown already? Then, he locks eyes with Anna. He recognizes her instantly, the girl from before. He thinks, okay, she's actually rocking that creepy cultist aesthetic, and figures this coincidence must be divine intervention. I am amazing, he tells himself. The high priest is squinting, assuming the deity is delivering a sermon, but internally, he's sweating because he couldn't hear a word. The voice is way too quiet. Shen Yi thinks fast and booms out loud, accusing the high priest. You dare silence yourself before the Lord of Ashes, and warns that punishment is imminent. The high priest goes into full panic mode. This is the first time in hundreds of years. He's actually facing a god. He's terrified he's about to get smited on the spot and decides he needs to act fast and bribe the Lord with the goods. Desperate to shift the vibe, he pivots the conversation. The whole room drops to their knees as the high priest presents a legendary treasure, the ever-changing mask. Shen Yi hears the grand announcement and figures, okay, that guy's definitely the boss. He notes that this is a dude he shouldn't provoke or get within striking distance of. He knows he's absolute toast if they realize he's an imposter. But then he catches a glimpse of the high priest, sobbing with pure religious ecstasy. The guy is a total fanatic. Shen Yi wonders why the old man isn't saying anything, if he actually suspects the fraud. But the high priest is just trembling, convinced the Lord is furious and preparing a divine smackdown. I mean, he finally met his idol. Shen Yi composes himself, realizing, wait, these guys have no clue anything is wrong. He booms out that he accepts the offering, calling them pathetic mortal weaklings. Suddenly, the mask starts levitating, and he hesitates, looks dangerous. But he snatches it out of the air anyway, declaring once more that the deal is sealed. A nearby cultist notices the high priest shaking like a leaf and thinks, wow, what devotion. He truly is the most loyal believer. The high priest is weeping tears of joy just for surviving, but then pauses. Why hasn't the Lord vanished yet? He suspects the entity is contemplating something deep, figuring since the Lord only shows up once every few millennia, something massive must be on the horizon. The god must desire something significant enough to make him linger. The priest starts wondering, if the Lord plans to flip the world upside down, he decides to shoot his shot. Bowing low, he humbly requests divine orders, swearing they'll reshape the world exactly how he wants it. That's when Anna steps up and drops a bombshell on the Lord of Ashes. These guys, they aren't your faithful servants, they're frauds. They only summoned you to exploit your power for themselves, and they've defied your will. The high priest snaps, screaming at her to shut her mouth, demanding if she has a death wish. He reminds her she's just a clueless orphan who needs to stay in her lane. Shen Yi channels his inner god and thunders, you disavowed my will. Now you deserve everything that's coming to you. Internally, Shen Yi thinks, yeah, this whole God's will thing isn't really working out for Anna if she's still getting bullied. He summons a swirling ball of fire in his palm and declares, she remains alive. It is her destiny to shoulder a great burden. He stares down the high priest. Do not offend her. The priest stares at the massive inferno, desperately trying to convince himself it's just a trick of the light. Shen Yi's voice cuts through the denial. Did you hear me? As the flames die down, the high priest instantly drops to his knees, swearing he's the Lord's humble servant and ready to obey every command. Shen Yi doesn't waste time. He announces he's bouncing back to his home dimension and tells them to chill with the sacrifices, he's not interested. As the realization hits that he's leaving, Aina has an epiphany. The Lord of Ashes isn't some evil deity. The destruction only happens because the world is too fragile to handle his sheer power. He's not the villain. Suddenly the sky opens up. Rain pours down. The high priest whispers that the Lord is gone, and the cultists start acting like they're in a trance. Dr. Noah bursts onto the scene looking visibly relieved but confused, demanding to know what just went down. Seeing the cultists losing their minds, the high priest warns Noah they need to scatter, the anti-magic bureau is en route. The commotion was too loud. Noah argues there are only a few investors here, but the unhinged elites among them are going to be a massive headache. He grabs the high priest by the collar, screaming for answers. The priest, frustrated, barks at the doctor to kneel. Noah freezes, wondering if the old man has finally snapped. Then panic sets in. He actually grabbed the high priest, a guy with a disaster-level danger rating. The priest ignores the disrespect and says he has an announcement for the whole cult. He claims it's critical, summoning Aina to step forward and stand by his side. The high priest proclaims Aina is the chosen one favored by their god. From this second on, everyone better show her some respect. He declares he'll personally guide them into a new era, executing a holy mission for the Lord of Ashes. Their goal, burn down the old world to build a new one. Aina cuts him off cold, stating flatly that she doesn't need his guidance. Cut to 1 week later. A customer sits in Shen Yi's cafe, muttering about sensing the Lord of Ashes energy. It's hot, twisted, heavy, and totally suffocating. He spots Shen Yi and sizes him up, just some kid running a coffee joint. He wonders who this guy really is. Shen Yi flashes a customer service smile and asks for his order. The guy hesitantly asks for a black coffee. As Shen Yi turns away, the customer realizes the scent clings to the descendants of the Lord of Ashes too, and starts questioning if Shen Yi is a threat he needs to eliminate. Behind the counter, Shen Yi is grumbling to himself. Finally, a paying customer, business has been dead, and he's borderline homeless. It's ironic he's the literal Lord of Ashes, yet he can't even pay rent. He's about to be starving on the streets. He wonders how his fanatical cultists would react to that reality. He drops the coffee at the table, and the customer notices the aura has vanished. Was Shen Yi not the source? The guy downs the coffee in one gulp. Shen Yi blinks, asking if that didn't burn his throat. The customer is surprised it's actual coffee, not some magic potion. Then his eyes lock onto a jar filled with paper cranes. He asks about them. The customer explains his daughter folded them. He told her to make a crane every time she had a wish and toss it in the jar. Their deal was simple whenever he had time. He'd pick one out and make it come true. But he missed his chance. Now the jar is the only piece of her left. She passed away years ago. He mentions someone advised him to bury the jar to stop the constant heartache, but he dug it back up because the pain of missing her was better than forgetting. Shen Yi offers some soft advice. Sometimes you have to let go. He admits he knows the sting of losing a loved one and spending nights staring at the ceiling. But living in the past is a trap. It destroys you, and the people you lost wouldn't want that. The customer shuts him down. Some memories aren't meant to fade. He vows to mourn his daughter until his last breath. He mutters under his breath that it doesn't matter if Shen Yi is a wizard, a cultist, or a fed from the bureau. The only way to stop him is to put him in the ground. Shen Yi shrugs, saying everyone has their own perspective, and apologizes if he overstepped. The customer relaxes slightly, figuring Shen Yi isn't trying to block his path. He muses that maybe fate brought them together and introduces himself as Baron Harriet. Shen Yi introduces himself and tells him to visit again. As Baron steps out the door, he mutters about the surname Shen. Is it an ancient lineage or something foreign? Suddenly, Shen Yi rushes out to stop him. Hey, you didn't pay for the coffee. Baron pays up, and Shen Yi flashes a grin, reminding him to come back soon. Baron pauses. Did this guy really just chase him down for a few bucks? He brushes it off, relieved that the mysterious shop owner isn't an enemy. But Baron's mission isn't over. He needs to find the god from the other dimension, and he needs to kill a descendant of the Lord of Ashes to use as a sacrifice. He decides that tonight is the night. He's going to break the ultimate taboo and summon the indecipherable god. He'll burn the world down if it means bringing his daughter back. Meanwhile, Shen Yi is chilling reading a book. He starts from page 223, which describes exactly that ritual. Imagine a titanic serpent, the Lord of Ashes, whose wings aren't feathers, but roaring hellfire incinerating his own worshippers in an eternal loop. This genderless entity doesn't care about desire. He just drops food like loot for his cultists reigning as the avatar of midnight. His power level, represented by the absolute void zero. They call him the god beyond this dimension, an entity perpetually away from keyboard in a deep slumber. Unlike the other fame-hungry deities, he couldn't care less about the mortal realm. Shen Yi figures if he'd seen this lore before, he would have brushed it off as some edgy world-building from a B-tier comic or fantasy novel. But this book, it's stingy with the details on the Lord of Ashes, leaving Shen Yi totally confused, so he ditches it for the other tome. He starts spamming the rituals listed inside, but freezes mid-motion. Flashback time, he suddenly remembers an obscure ceremony, packed with a laundry list of names. Before he got isekai'd here, his life was basically a compilation of epic fails. Career trash. Life, a mess. Even in video games, his RNG was absolutely rigged. That's when the intrusive thoughts won. He decided to channel main character energy and pull off a ritual to fix his cursed luck. He rushed home to grab that ancient family heirloom book. He had zero clue what the text meant. But desperate times call for desperate measures. He started grinding through the instructions. The mechanics were surprisingly simple. Step 1. Line up bright yellow talismans along the table edges. Step 2. Sign your name on one of the slips. Step 3. Copy the names from the book onto the rest. Spin the table like a roulette wheel and chant the incantation. Once the spell is cast, snatch your name paper back. Finally, delete the rest of the papers simultaneously. Next day, nothing. He camped in the storeroom all night for zero payoff. Shen Yi starts suspecting his transmigration is linked to that sketchy ritual and those creepy names. A cold chill of impending doom washes over him. He flicks a flame from his fingertip, wondering if he can hook someone with these embers. His fire manipulation leveled up after the second summon, but it's still nerfed non-lethal, basically just a fancy party trick for intimidation. Why is he still so weak? Even after hopping dimensions, all he got was a spooky flashlight ability and a garbage mask. The High Priest hyped this item up as legendary gear, but to Shen Yi, it looks like vendor trash. Is he equipping it wrong? He slaps the mask on, trying to trigger a transformation, but crickets. Frustrated, he tosses it on the floor. And that's when the magic happens. The mask starts liquefying, melting into the shadows. Sudden realization hits him like a truck. He scrambles for a mirror. If his theory holds water, merging the mask with the shadows should unlock a character customization menu. Sitting before the glass, he re-equips the mask, and it dissolves, morphing him into the exact likeness of his client Baron. It worked. He's a perfect 4K clone, right down to the micro-expressions. Can he mod his body and outfit too? He feels like he just achieved his budget cosplay dreams. Suddenly, the summoning alarm triggers. The chant rings in his ears, familiar, but the vibes are off. He starts questioning. If a god can have different ringtones for different summoners, each one terrifyingly unique. Meanwhile, Baron is locking in. Praying, the deity picks up the phone. He's begging for the one thing his soul craves. It's April 30th Walpurgis Night, the Super Bowl for witches. He's been counting down the days for months. This ancient spell is supposed to ping one of the eldritch gods, a being predating humanity, an omniscient observer with god mode enabled. This entity trades knowledge for sacrifices. He's a double-edged sword, bringing hope and despair in the same package. Happiness, not in his inventory. Baron screams into the void. He doesn't care if he gets crucified, he just wants his daughter back. As bizarre glyphs manifest, Baron stares, wondering if the god is judging his drip. Legend says the entity usually appears as an infinite. White fog, reason unknown. Shen Yi spawns into the scene, muttering about how he accidentally auto-filled his appearance to match the customer he saw this morning. What are the odds? This guy doesn't look like loot. He's definitely the summoner. Shen Yi drops some lore generations of scholars named the god Haze of the White Shore. But titles are meaningless to a cosmic horror. Baron nods, getting deep humans only see what they project onto the divine. Shen Yi plays along. Baron is convinced he passed the vibe check and satisfied the god with his offering. He begs for the res on his daughter, presenting the legendary item, the Flaming Seed of Chaos. Shen Yi analyzes the situation from their earlier interaction. Baron seems like a decent NPC, not a villain, but revealing his identity now would be suicide. Better to stay in character until the cutscene ends. He finds Baron surprisingly polite, and thank God for the auto-cleanup feature. That massive corpse just deleted itself. No heavy lifting required. It feels like being swallowed whole by the void. Baron realizes he's standing in the presence of infinite power. Desperate, he begs the entity to resurrect his dead daughter. Shen Yi is internally screaming. He has zero clue who this Baron guy is, but he can sense the raw, suffocating grief radiating off the man. He feels bad, but let's be real, he doesn't have the cheats to pull off a resurrection. He quickly scans his memory of the lore. There are 8 nature types. The Lord of Ashes deals in tragedy, but he's playing a different role today. As the Haze of the White Shore, Shen Yi figures he needs to offer a reward. But what kind of loot does a cosmic entity drop? He recalls a line from the archives. Knowledge from the White Shore is beyond human comprehension. Perfect. He needs to drop something deep, abstract, and totally out of this world. And if Baron doesn't get it, Shen Yi can just gaslight him and say he lacks the wisdom to understand. Baron starts panicking at the silence, wondering if his offering was trash. Shen Yi finally speaks, declaring he will grant the wish with forbidden lore. He begins weaving a tale about the northern darkness, describing a legendary fish named Kun. This thing is massive, we're talking thousands of miles long, absolute unit. It transforms into a bird named Peng, with a wingspan that blots out the sky. Shen Yi dubs this concept transcending bonds. He explains that the soul and body are separate entities. To truly free the soul, one must ditch the physical, material cage of this world. He emphasizes that this is forbidden knowledge, and the endgame isn't coming back to life. It's an upgrade. Those who grasp this truth achieve what mortals only dream of: an eternal, indestructible soul. He drops a warning. If this intel leaks, it won't just start wars, it'll flip the entire reality of the world upside down. With that mic drop, Shen Yi begins to fade away internally, praying the performance is over. Thank God he actually paid attention in lit class. Baron is left standing there, absolutely shook. He's convinced this transcending bonds theory is going to shatter society. He sees it as a terrifying karmic burden, unable to believe he brought this into existence. He thinks this must be Shen Yi's 4D chess move. The entity didn't just give him a resurrection spell. He handed over god-tier enlightenment. Shen Yi teleports back to his room, exhaling deeply. He handled that like a pro, no rookie mistakes this time. He checks the clock, 11 sharp. The ancient text was legit. It confirms that the Haze of the White Shore is an interdimensional deity representing the 11th hour. So no Lord of Ashes this run. He pulled the White Shore character instead. He wonders if this is going to be a recurring gacha pull. He notes the summon location was an old castle. Checking his phone, he confirms the summoner was Baron, and the mission objective was reviving his daughter. He has a photo of the scene, but without GPS coordinates. It's pretty useless right now. Still, he admits snapping that pic was a risky move that might jeopardize his cover. But intel is intel. He's actually kicking himself for not documenting the first 2 summons. Time for the loot check. He tries to activate his powers to see if he leveled up, But after straining himself, he realizes nothing. No upgrade. The flames are still at base level. Major bummer. At least the mask disguise is flawless. He looks at the seed Baron gave him. It's good the guy was considerate enough not to offer a whole cow. Shen Yi isn't exactly built to drag carcasses around. As a god, he finds the lizard vibe of the seed creepy. But if he wants to unlock the secrets of that unknown dimension, this item is key. He stashes the seed in a box and shoves it in a drawer. Later that night, while Shen Yi is out cold, the seed cracks open and morphs into a lizard. It creeps up and tries to wake him, but the guy is sleeping like a log. Terrified by Shen Yi's thunderous snoring, the lizard bails, wandering outside before shapeshifting into a cat. Meanwhile, enter George, one of the 7 elite Grade A investigators in Nolan. This guy is known for soloing crises that would wipe out squads. He's basically an idol to the rookies at the Anti-Magic Bureau, who whisper his nicknames with reverence: the legendary investigator, the strange killer, the undead raven. On a gloomy, rainy day, George is patrolling with his umbrella, roasting someone over his earpiece. He demands the other person stop rambling and get to the point. The voice on the line apologizes, blaming the adrenaline, and gives the "I'm just a human with one heart" excuse. The intel. A kid was spotted with a weird chalice, hanging around a specific area. But according to the background check, the shop owner, there is squeaky clean. Although the owner is annoyingly handsome, George still has to run the investigation by the book, following strict Anti-Magic Bureau protocols. George snaps his umbrella shut, staring at the shop. "Understood," he says. His internal monologue kicks in. This isn't a routine check. This case is classified top secret and serious as hell. Cut to another location. A girl sits in a dark room, her face obscured by the faint, colorless gloom. Suddenly, a bright light illuminates her features. She's been watching. She's been waiting. Her reflection screamed from the blinding light as she shrieked that an evil god had descended right here in Nolan. George just smirked, amused. What could be worse than an evil god showing up? Total human extinction. Please, that's barely a warm-up. He fished a photograph from his coat pocket, staring at it with a sigh. Damn shame. If the resolution wasn't absolute garbage, he might have actually seen a face. Instead, he was looking at a blurry girl with cascading gray hair. And of course, her back was turned, keeping her identity a total mystery. Pocketing the clue, he headed straight for Shen's coffee shop. He ordered a latte. Shen, who was busy wiping down the counter, nodded and said it'd be up in a heartbeat. "Take a load off," Shen added. George scanned the guy. Honestly, Shen looked like the definition of an NPC, totally ordinary. This guy clearly hadn't seen a ghost, let alone a god. George mentally filed this as another dead-end waste of his time. Shen slid the steaming cup across the counter. "Here you go. Enjoy." George took a sip, keeping it casual. "So seen anything weird around here lately?" Shen froze, eyes widening as cold sweat started to drip. "Weird? You mean like supernatural stuff?" Sensing the trap, Shen squeezed his eyes shut. The weather's been trash, so business is slow. That's all." Inside, his mind was racing. Did I say too much? He panicked, forcing himself to chill out before he blew his cover entirely. "Got it. Thanks," George replied, playing along. By 2 p.m., the cup was empty, and George stood up to bounce. Shen, already hiding behind his smartphone, called out, "Take care." George threw back a polite thanks for the brew. The door clicked shut. Shen slumped against the counter, exhaling a massive breath. He finally cracked a smile. Okay, he really was just a normal customer. Shen shook his head. He was definitely overthinking this whole secret identity thing, even if that guy did look like a hitman. Suddenly, Shen's fingers twitched violently. His brows furrowed. A chill shot through his gut. Seriously, new powers taking their sweet time to load. He glared at his phone screen. Apparently, instant activation wasn't a feature after summoning. He groaned, thrusting his hand out like an anime protagonist. Nothing happened except some awkward sweating. Why can't I blast anything? But he could feel the energy surging under his skin. He tried to move the energy around. Suddenly, Shen dissolved. His entire body shifted into a swirling haze, drifting right through the shelves. "Holy crap," he screamed internally. "I just turned into literal water vapor." He realized he had full control. He could navigate while in ghost mode. Just as quickly, he solidified back into human form, stumbling onto the floor. 10 seconds, he muttered, surprised. Honestly, that's way more useful than shooting fire. Great for running away. Clack. The lock turned. George was standing there. He stepped back inside. Shen, fully solid now, but panicking, spun around. Forget something. His skin was still faintly glowing with a fiery hue. That was too close, Shen thought. 1 second earlier and I'd be busted. George didn't blink. I caught the scent of an evil god. I could feel it radiating from miles away. He described it as a power so dark it was absolutely suffocating. He stared at Shen. I totally underestimated this guy, George thought. Suddenly, he felt a flaming aura exploding from Shen's body. George's nerves snapped, tight sweat breaking out instantly. Why the hell did I come back in here? It was way more terrifying up close. George grit his teeth, fists clenching. The pressure of the evil god's scent. It was crushing the coffee shop. George felt like a tiny dinghy about to be capsized by a tsunami. Desperate to break the tension, Shen chirped, another coffee." George forced a smile, terrified. "Sure, a latte." "Coming right up," Shen said. "Wait, hold on. I think I'm out of ingredients. Let me check the back." Shen bolted into the storage room. The second the door latched shut, he started hyperventilating. Did he see it? Does he know? Do I confess? Do I deny it? He had no idea what the fallout would be if he came clean now. He clutched his head. "No, I can't talk my way out of this. I need a plan to fool him." Out front, George was drenching his shirt in sweat. He knew the missing ingredients excuse was total bogus. Why would Shen flare his god-tier aura like that for no reason? He wanted me to come back. It was a lure. George's eyes darted to the counter. Shen's phone. It was lying right there. George stepped forward. He left this on purpose. It's a message. He unlocked the screen and swiped through the gallery, only to find hundreds of pictures of cats. Scrolling through the camera roll. Man, swipe after swipe, it's just endless cat spam. Shen is officially obsessed. Wait, he pauses. Amidst the feline overload, one pic feels wrong. A glitch in the matrix. A hidden location with a glowing spell circle. Eyes wide, he zooms in. He can only see a fragment, but there's no mistaking that geometry. It's a high-level summoning ritual. He needs answers now. He steels himself to decode Shen's cryptic message. Meanwhile, Shen is struggling with a heavy grocery haul, kicking open the back door of the cafe. "Yo, got the goods, just give me a sec." Silence. He scans the room. Empty. George ghosted him. Shen scratches his head. Where'd he go? Then he spots it. George's phone abandoned on the counter. Did he leave in an emergency? Cut to the dark dimension from the photo. The exact coordinates of that spell circle. A heavy metal door groans open. George steps into the void, scanning the architecture. It actually exists. The air is thick, choking on the stench of an other-dimensional deity. Smoky haze swirls through the gloom, parting to reveal a massive silhouette. A giant lizard monster looms in the fog, its glowing eyes locking onto George. George grips his umbrella unbothered. He sniffs the air. That's not the Lord of Ashes. "What is a grunt like you doing here?" The beast roars and lunges. George yells, the seed of chaos. He leaps vertical, the monster misses, smashing headfirst into the wall. Boom, explosion of debris. George touches down on a falling slab of concrete, taps his toe, and relaunches himself skyward. Gravity is just a suggestion. Mid-air backflip. He chants requisition and concession. Third blade. The weapon materializes in his grip. He hurls it down like a thunderbolt. You might be tier 2 on the danger scale. Abnormal, twisted, disastrous, untouchable. But this one shot should delete you. The monster spins around in the smoke, looking up just in time to see its doom. Pure terror. George sticks the landing, while the creature shrieks behind him. He doesn't look back. Mental command, target the head. The blade punches right through the skull. George stands, eyes snapping open. He recalls the weapon. Requisition and concession. The wounded beast panics, smashing through the ruined wall to flee. George sighs. Useless. As long as you're in this dimension, I can't miss. He leans casually against the wall and throws the blade blind. The weapon phases out of existence. A split second later, crack. A roar of impact echoes from the rainy darkness outside. High-speed chase in the pouring rain. George spams the chant, requisition and concession. Another blade manifests, launching at supersonic speed to tag the monster. He chants again, reloading instantly, firing another spectral weapon into the sky to track the beast. He's turning into a human machine gun, summon and shoot, until the blade finally snaps back to his hand. George grimaces. This thing is a tank. The cost is adding up. He's already paid with the sensation in 2 fingers, 2 toes, and half his face. 5 direct hits, and it's still moving. The rain pounds down on him. He realizes the grim truth. Physical attacks aren't cutting it. He can't kill it this way. My DPS is too low, he mutters. I need a sorcerer for this kind of boss fight. He pops his umbrella open, strolling through the wreckage. Wonder how that Baron guy is holding up. Hand to his earpiece. Intel check. The seed of chaos is definitely kin to the Lord of Ashes. The residual energy screams haze of the White Shore. And this whole Baranda operation, it's got a massive cast of characters. He speaks into the comms. I'm drafting a full report for the Bureau. Tell the anti-magic suits to upgrade this target's threat level. Mark it untouchable for now. Cut to 2 months later. A storm rages. A streak of fire tears across the skyline, skimming rooftops, threading a window, and zooming straight into the Musselman coffee shop. Snap. Shen catches the flame barehanded. He freezes processing the data. Max range achieved 985 feet. The flame acts as a surveillance drone. He hears the voices, sees the faces of everyone it passed. A vivid 4K movie playing in his brain. Eyes open. Phase 2, let's go. He raises a hand, shouting an incantation before slapping the counter. Poof. His hand dissolves into swirling smoke. Just turning to haze isn't enough, Shen analyzes. I need instant vaporization to make this work. He shakes his smoky limb. And this form is stiff. Can't expand, can't contract. He sighs. Still got work to do. Only his right arm morphed, but his left hand. He summons a flame. One side for brawling, the other for burning. Totally different skill trees. He figures that wraps up the grind for today's training arc. Later, staring at the ceiling, it hits him. George has been ghosting the cafe for days, and business is tanking without him. Shen's just lying there waiting for his golden goose to walk back through the door, so he can get that cash flow moving again. He thinks back to all the heavy lore he dropped on George, about his homeworld. George always looked like he was downloading the secrets of the universe, completely locked in. Shen figures it's clutch, having another powered-up ally in this realm. If his cover ever gets blown and the mob comes hunting, maybe George will have his back. He squeezes his eyes shut, manifesting that reality. Please don't let it be just wishful thinking. Boom. Suddenly, he's surrounded by flaming tunnels crashing down like meteors. Thud, thud. Shen stands there bewildered. Is this a dream? Is the whole world made of soot? Is this the Lord of Ashes' crib? He spins around. Anna, just standing there. He creeps up behind her, analyzing the situation. Is she the dreamer here? A wicked little intrusive thought sparks in his brain. If this is her headspace, he's basically a god here. He reaches out and squishes her cheeks like dough. They stand together watching the inferno. Shen senses the connection fading. This dream is on a timer. He's only seen this place once in 2 whole months. Super rare drop rate. What triggers this event? Whatever. Time to log out. He pats Anna's head. Peace out. Poof. Gone. Back in reality, Anna jolts awake screaming the Lord's name in pure terror. Flashback. She tried an astral projection ritual, right before crashing. She tried to ping the Lord of Ashes, and she thinks she actually got through. She winks, one eye shut, straining to check her own back. It's burning up like crazy. Why does it feel like lava? She twists around. Boom. A brand from the Lord himself. She is absolutely shook. Meanwhile, outside in the pouring rain, a figure in a black hooded robe is on the move. Inside the cafe, Shen is pacing a hole in the floor, muttering. He's never actually spoken to this girl, but he's seen her 3 times now. Every encounter has been a total glitch in the Matrix. Outside, the hooded figure stops dead. Time to go in. Shen is still monologuing. Honestly, better to keep it virtual. Thank God Anna and her cultist crew don't have his address. If they doxed him, his life would be a nightmare. Creak. The door swings open. The hooded figure steps in. It's Anna. Shen doesn't even look up from his prep. Welcome, she turns toward his voice. Shen looks up and his heart drops. Anna. Panic mode. Engage. This is bad. The shadow mask is stashed in the back room drawer. He whips around, hiding his face. What can I get you? Anna pulls back, her wet hood confused. You are asking me, she says. Shen grinds his teeth so hard they might crack. How did she track him down? They've never exchanged a single word. The math isn't mathing. Do these cultists have GPS hacks? Prophecies? Some kind of cheat code? He needs to bluff fast. Still facing the wall, he drops his voice to a mysterious bass. So you finally arrived. Mental smirk. He's appeared as a god twice. She's got to be losing her mind right now, standing before her idol. She just stares at his back, totally lost. Who are you? Shen turns around, ready to perform. He acts shocked. Oh, what brings you here? But the air leaves the room. When Anna just replies flatly, I don't need anything. Shen strokes his chin, processing. Okay, she's not hostile. He did save her life twice after all. You look beat. How about a coffee, my treat? Whatever you want. She hesitates. I don't know much about coffee. He softens his tone. Vanilla latte it is. Sweet and simple. Perfect for someone your age. She rolls with the suggestion, but as she spins around to leave, her gut is screaming that this whole situation is totally sus. Who is this creepy adult, and does he seriously know her? While she's stressing, Shen just cracks a smug little smile. Aina was completely spaced out, her brain still buffering from that unexpected glimpse of her deity. She slumped into the chair, trying to figure out why the cafe reeked of that heavy, twisted aroma unique to the Lord of Ashes. It was suffocating, and honestly, it was ticking her off. She needed to know who this barista guy really was. Shen returned, sliding a vanilla latte onto the table, and casually noted that she was probably dying to know why he was hanging around. Aina shot him a look that was equal parts shock and confusion. Before dropping a bomb, she could literally feel the Lord of Ashes aura radiating from this very spot. Hearing that, Shen's eyes went dead, then did a full 360 roll. A smirk tugged at his lips. She still hadn't connected the dots. Internally, he admitted defeat. He definitely carried the scent, and had zero clue how to scrub it off, so the charade had to go on. He closed his eyes, resigning himself to the grind. There was no way he could just announce, hey, I'm the Lord of Ashes, straight to her face. Trying to maintain a divine persona while pulling espresso shots, 9 to 5, impossible. But since she was still guessing, he figured he could pivot. New role, the mysterious divine messenger. The guy on speed dial with God. Ina took a sip of the latte, cheeks flushing pink as she licked the foam from her lips, murmuring about how sweet and cold it was. Shen tossed a towel right over her head, telling her to dry off that soaking wet hair. Turning his back to her to prep the next brew maximum cool points, he declared that the Lord of Ashes sees everything. Suddenly, the door hinges screamed. George stumbled in, looking like he'd just walked out of a slaughterhouse, clothes drenched in fresh blood. Shen nearly jumped out of his skin, sweating buckets. Did George just survive a war zone? Then the realization hit him like a truck. Ina was still sitting right there, panic mode engaged. He had to keep these two apart at all costs. Still sweating profusely, he pointed toward the back room, plastering on a weird, strained smile as he ushered George to take a seat inside. George was floored. He thought Shen was playing 4D chess, marveling that the shop owner had seemingly predicted his arrival, and even prepped an interrogation room. He nodded and followed orders. George collapsed onto the sofa, while Shen took the chair opposite him. George wasted no time assuming Shen already knew he was a Fed from the Anti-Magic Bureau. Even though the brass called them defenders of civilization, George was real about it. He knew they were just cannon fodder, meat for the grinder on the front lines. Shen gave a sympathetic nod, saying that sounded rough while stealing a glance at the main room. Ina was aggressively drying her hair, the towel completely masking her face. Shen silently thanked every star in the sky that George hadn't clocked her, probably thinking she was just some random girl hiding from the rain. George cut to the chase. He needed a favor. Shen flashed his customer service smile, insisting he'd brew a coffee first, and they could talk business after. George wondered if caffeine was some weird ritual here, but didn't complain. Shen slipped out, shutting the door and peeking through the crack with a grin, whispering that George was definitely paying for that drink. Door secured, Shen leaned back and muttered, "What are the odds?" Realizing he had to extract one particular customer immediately, he ghosted up behind Ina and, lowering his voice to a whisper, asked if the cult was the reason she was here. Ina's face went blank as the brand on her back started burning up. She looked up at Shen, explaining that the cult was in dire straits, being hunted down by a Black Ops mission called Operation Hush Strike. She needed to summon the Lord of Ashes fast. Shen asked for details on Hush Strike, then immediately switched gears, assuring her to put her faith in the Lord to handle the mess. He moved with purpose, striking a pose right in front of her table, raising a hand like he was commanding the elements, and boomed, that fear was unnecessary. She just needed to trust the Lord's power, because their golden age was just around the corner. Ina pressed her lips together, breaking into a nervous sweat, replying that she didn't totally get it, but it sounded epic. Shen doubled down, promising the Lord of Ashes, had her back and guaranteed the win, suggesting she head home to lay low. She stood up, fully convinced. Once she was gone, Shen walked back to George with the coffee, apologizing for the delay and asking what the big favor was. George reached into his bloodstained jacket, pulled out a photo, and slammed it on the table. He was there to hunt down the girl in the picture. He suspected she was a cultist and warned that these fanatics had become a massive threat to the Order of Veranda, a threat the Bureau needed to liquidate. He handed the photo to Shen, and the moment Shen looked at it, his brain froze. His eyes rolled back into his head, screaming internally at the cosmic joke. Staring at the photo, Shen wondered why on earth he would help George hunt her down when he was literally her accomplice, trapped in a situation he couldn't explain to either side. He forced a nod, agreeing to help find her secretly, hoping he'd be the one to get to the girl first. George squinted at the photo. It was a total pixelated mess. You couldn't even tell if the kid was a guy or a girl. Plus, nobody ever mentioned spotting this mystery kid on the streets. Looks like coming to Shen was the money move. But everything has a price tag. Shen just flashed a cryptic smile and told him to mark it down as a favor. George crossed his arms, frowning hard enough to crack his face. He'd way rather drop a massive pile of cash than owe a debt to a sketchy enigma like Shen. Nah, he'd trade a rare relic instead to square the deal. He stood up, promising to slide through with a gift in a few days. Shen just kept smiling and waved him off. The door clicked shut. Alone, Shen gripped his hair, stressing out. He whispered that he was probably just tripping over nothing, but it felt like he was dead center in a downward spiral. Meanwhile, under the bright daylight, Yana perched on the rooftop, gazing at the lush greenery below. Baron showed up, calling her name. She spun around, answering with total respect. Baron stepped up, asking what was on her mind. Her face went beet red, lips pressed tight in nervous energy, and she tapped her index fingers together, classic shy move, before forcing a smile. She hoped the payout could be just a little fatter. She reminded him of her situation. She's got 8 siblings to feed, and that is not cheap. Avoiding eye contact, she mentioned her classmates got sent to the E.R. last time. This run felt way sketchier, so could he bump up her rate? Baron looked tragic, but admitted she had serious grit, and stayed active after the ritual despite having 0 talent. Still, he gave her the green light. Yana literally started jumping for joy. Baron squeezed his eyes shut, thinking only peasants obsessed over cash like that. and that the mystery VIP at the cafe definitely wouldn't care about material junk. Then he announced it was time to start the summoning. Cut to a pitch-black room. Baron sat in the center of a lightning circle and drove a blade straight into his palm. Crimson splattered, dripping onto the runes as he called out to the nameless. The indescribable, the unknown. He summoned the abyss, confessing his heart was overflowing with agony and despair, which he'd use as a bridge to connect. He was ready to commit ultimate good, or ultimate evil. He just prayed the entity would manifest in this dimension and grant his one true desire. Yana stood in the back, trembling like a leaf. She jammed her fingers into her ears, refusing to witness this nightmare. Suddenly, Baron's double materialized, draped in smoke and crackling lightning. This dude had jet black hair totally unlike Baron's brown locks. The double watched him thinking he should just let the guy be, realizing Baron had zero clue how to actually resurrect his daughter, as Baron kept chanting to the haze of the white shore. And the controller of worlds, he admitted the entity was god tier, but his own understanding was way too shallow to grasp the message. The double stood in silence, thinking there was no way Baron could unlock supernatural hacks like this. Stepping forward, the double whispered, asking if Baron craved more. Then he remembered Baron couldn't even see him, but the real Baron, teeth gritted and eyes shut tight, screamed that he wanted it all, and hungered for that forbidden hypnotic knowledge. The double, shrouded in smoke, murmured that the wish was a go, if the sacrifice was right. He paused in front of Yana, snapped her picture, and then turned to capture more shots. The real Baron stood up, declaring he had an offering that would satisfy the gods. He held out a silver ring. The double slid it off Baron's finger, thinking, yeah, looks like silver. But knowing Baron could barely cover next month's utilities, he really should pawn this if he needed cash. Outside, a girl walked up to the door and shoved it open. Inside, the double watched Baron, wondering what fake spell he should spit out this time. Meanwhile, the real Baron knelt there wondering what kind of dark secrets were coming his way. Suddenly, the girl pierced through the smoke and darkness, crying out, "Father!" Baron's eyes snapped open. Was that Yifu? Yana cracked one eye open, scanning the room, asking who was there. But when she saw a massive, shadowy figure looming over her, she freaked out and collapsed to the floor. Yifu walked up to Baron, whispering that it felt like she'd been trapped in a long, never-ending nightmare. Someone was waiting in the dream, calling her name, begging her to wake up. It felt like eternity, but a sudden chill snapped her awake. Hearing this, the double just smirked, wondering if Baron actually pulled off a resurrection. How the hell did he do it? He pinched his nose, questioning if Baron actually learned something real from the free and easy wandering teachings. He honestly has no clue how Baron pulled this off, but the result is gold. Baron is now convinced more than ever that Shen is a literal god. The entity fades into thin air, dropping a final promise. If the offering makes the cut, there's a sweet reward coming. But there's a catch. Next time they summon him, the sacrifice better be high tier. No cheap stuff allowed. Baron scrambles to his feet, eyes darting around for the disappearing act, completely confused by the demand for a better sacrifice. Talk about a tough critic. It looks like today's offering was barely a warm-up, and the entity was definitely not satisfied. He'd locked away that forbidden lore, but then Yifu dropped a bombshell on her dad. She felt a strange warmth in the air. It was like a guardian angel was watching her from the fog, making her feel safe and happy. Baron's jaw clenched. His eyes darted nervously. She's being watched by the haze of the white shore. A twisted, evil grin crept up his face as he stared into the void. The gears turned in his head. If he sacrificed Yifu, he could unlock god-tier forbidden magic. The thought totally consumed him. Yifu, sensing the mood shift, placed a hand on his shoulder. "Dad, what's wrong?" Tears instantly welled in Baron's eyes. He screamed her name, spinning around to crush her in a bear hug. "I'm so sorry. I won't let anyone touch you. Never again." He swore that nothing in this world would take her away from him. Yifu beamed, promising she wasn't going anywhere. Suddenly, boom. Baron sensed a massive presence. Face twisted in rage, he squared up against a blinding, colorful pillar of light that shot vertically through the hall. He roared into the abyss, addressing the controller of worlds, the magnificent lord of the haze. "I'll get you a better tribute next time. Just stop obsessing over my daughter." Chen, watching from the void, just facepalmed. Dude, I literally glanced at her for a second. Talk about a drama queen. Did he really need to crash out like that? Meanwhile, back in the smoke, the scene shifted. Baron was on his knees while his partner towered over him. "The Hush Strikes approached me days ago for an alliance," the partner stated. "They offered a catastrophic-level mystery relic as payment." Baron gestured wildly. "I hate dealing with cultists, but my hands are tied." Back in reality, Chen phased into his cafe, letting his haze form dissipate. He let out a heavy sigh. His stats were definitely buffed. Naturally, he started wondering, if this is mid-tier, what does the endgame ability look like? Tapping his foot impatiently, he initiated the D-transformation. He stared at his right arm as it morphed back into a regular human hand. Man, what a waste, he thought. He still couldn't figure out how to use the ring Baron gave him. Another deep sigh. He was a total noob when it came to this supernatural stuff. Rubbing his chin, he pondered, do they expect me to grind at work? Just to buy expensive occult textbooks? Smack. He slapped his own face in frustration. Get it together. That's not very god tier. That's straight up corporate slave mentality. Gripping his chin, he thought, maybe I should just hit up George and let him explain the ring mechanics. Whatever. He grabbed his custom raincoat off the rack and shook it out. Time to head out and flex the new purchase. Dang, expensive custom gear really hits different, he noted happily, admiring the colors. Mask on, hat on. Chen stepped into the alleyway, marching through the downpour. It was raining cats and dogs out there. He hopped on the bus, his brain ticking. Last time Baron summoned him, he'd snapped some intel shots of a building through the window. Raincoat off, dry seat secured. He whipped out his phone to swipe through the gallery. That building, probably lurking, on the edge of South Bayranda. Zooming in on the photo, he made a deduction. If he wasn't tripping, those high walls had a glass walkway acting as an observatory deck. This international hub was split into 4 zones. Bayranda, the moneymaker and trade center. West Bayranda, the power seat with Nolan's palace. Home to the prime ministers, the councils, and the big government wigs. East Bayranda, factory central for the working class. And South Bayranda, a chaotic mix of condos, industry, and shops. Massive walls separated the districts. You couldn't just stroll across. Regular folks needed government clearance. Just to cross the border. Fast forward a bit. Chen stood on the high bridge rain, battering his coat hand, covering his mouth. He spotted a dark-haired girl, standing nearby in a blue raincoat. Who else is crazy enough to be on an observation deck? In this lousy weather, just him. The girl turned. Her internal radar went off. She'd never sensed anyone this powerful, in this dimension. Chen, glued to his binoculars, decided to ignore her. He had bigger fish to fry. Bingo. This is the right angle. He had to wonder, did Baron have a side hustle? Besides being a sorcerer, the guy gave off serious long con energy. Chen needed dirt on Baron's victims. Once he had that intel, he could drop divine secrets that would absolutely shatter their minds. He twisted the focus dial, whispering to himself. That was the only way to keep his cover from getting blown. Summoning an other-dimensional deity. Yeah, that was strictly off-limits for Baron. One slip-up and Shen finds out, then snitches to George. Game over. His gaze shifted to the bus stop, locking onto a girl hopping aboard. Instant recognition, she was the one who passed out earlier. Based on her fit, she was definitely a student, no matter where that bus was headed. It rolled right past Baden Empire Academy. The age match was too perfect. Shen realized Baron had to be hiding in plain sight as a student there. He pivoted, catching sight of that blue raincoat just a few feet away. Standing on the observatory deck in this downpour, she was definitely hiding something. But then he shook his head. He was spiraling, getting way too paranoid. She was a nobody, irrelevant, time to bounce. But as he walked away, the girl's eyes bore into his back. Her senses flared. The stench of the Lord of Ashes was thick, suffocating. Who the hell was this guy, really? She squeezed her eyes shut, calming the urge. She'd been inches away from snapping and drawing her blade right there. Right on cue, George rolled up, umbrella in hand. He sized her up, asking if she was the rookie partner he was stuck with. You, a high schooler, Su Ling, right? She spun around, ready to set the record straight. College, she snapped. Freshman at Baden Empire Academy. George shut his eyes, looking like he had a migraine coming on. Nolan is officially screwed, he muttered. He couldn't believe the Anti-Magic Bureau teamed him up with a kid who still needed a hall pass. I need to retire. Su Ling wasn't having it. I'm in college. I'm 17. I skipped a grade, okay. So, age-wise, you're a high schooler. She practically screamed, I am a college student. George jammed a finger in his ear, grimacing at the volume. Su Ling glared daggers, knuckles white, as she clenched her fists. I'm a B-grade investigator, she hissed. 10 years of combat experience before I even signed up. I might be new here, but don't you dare treat me like some helpless rookie. George let out a dry chuckle. All right. Message received. College student. His face went serious. But honestly, doesn't matter if you're in high school or med school. We've got bigger problems. Su Ling dropped the attitude, her expression shifting to innocent curiosity. She listened as George dropped the bomb. The city was on the brink. The cult was prepping for another ritual. They'd picked a high-value sacrifice for a ceremony at a downtown club. Su Ling's eyes widened. Miranda, fill me in on the way, she ordered. George blinked, confused. Where exactly are you going? I'm starving, she chirped, innocence fully restored. You're buying. George balked. Excuse me, why am I paying? Su Ling held up a finger. 1. Respect your elders. No, wait, respect the youth. I'm the newbie, you're the veteran. It's etiquette. She ticked off a second finger. 2. You're higher rank. Better wage, killer benefits, fat annual bonuses. Do the math. George facepalmed. Fine, my treat. He sighed. We're going to my usual spot. I need you to meet someone there anyway. Su Ling pouted but shrugged. Whatever, as long as the food keeps coming. Cut to Shen. The hot water blasted down, washing away the grime. Man, that feels better, he muttered. Next, stop the library. Dark, smoky haze drifted off his hair as he scrubbed. He thought back to his last visit. Last time he bribed a guy to grab a book. This time he was just going to borrow the guy's face. Literally. George burst into the coffee shop. "Hello, anybody home?" Shen's voice floated out, irritated. "George, what are you doing here?" "We got a customer," George bellowed. Shen grabbed a towel, frantically covering up. He kicked the sliding door open, dripping wet. Su Ling had already ditched her raincoat, scanning the place. "Thought you said there was a guy here," she asked, unimpressed. "Door's unlocked," George replied. "He's around somewhere." Shen stepped into view, looking exasperated. "Seriously, George? In this downpour?" At the sound of his voice, Su Ling spun around. Shen flashed his best customer service smile. "You must really crave this coffee, old man." But Su Ling froze. That scent. Heavy. Oppressive. The Lord of Ashes was standing right in front of her. Her eyes locked onto him. Suddenly, she wasn't in a cafe. She was back there. A red book consumed by flames. Shen's manic evil laughter echoing. Fire ripping through a red-roofed house. A sword crackling with lightning plunged deep into something burning alive. The memory burned. Su Ling bit her lip, rage boiling over. If she could just end them all right now. Oblivious to her internal crisis, Shen tilted his head. "Does the Anti-Magic Bureau hire child labor now? Aren't you still in high school?" Su Ling's face went stone cold. She said nothing. George's warning played in her head. Just observe, he had told her on the way over. Don't engage. Just watch him. Remembering that moment, she scrunched her face tight, biting her lip to suppress a scream. Finally, she let out a furious huff and dropped the bomb that she was a college student. George barely held back a snort. Leaning in toward Shen, George whispered loud enough to hear freshman year. Basically still a high schooler. She's 17. Same difference. Su Ling just stared daggers at him, her expression deadpan and lethal. "All right, intro's over," George said, cutting the tension. "Let's get down to business." He brought up the person he needed Shen to track, but Shen just pointed at the counter. "Coffee first, intel later." "Fine. Another latte," George sighed in defeat. While Shen nodded, Su Ling was already burying her nose in the menu. Her eyes literally sparkled at the pictures. She started rattling off a feast mousse, cake chicken sandwich tiramisu, fresh cream cake, egg tarts, donuts, macarons. Then she dropped the mic. "Make it double. 2 of everything." Shen shrank back, looking up at this bottomless pit of a girl. And what kind of coffee do you want?" "I don't know, coffee. You pick," she shrugged. Shen smirked, accepting the challenge. "In that case, leave it to me. I'll whip up something you'll love." She nodded, and Shen spun around to start prep. Shen was mentally counting the profits, but George was sweating bullets. "You realize you're wasting food, right?" "Whatever I don't eat, I bag up," she shot back. George squeezed his eyes shut, pained. "Kid, you don't order a feast at a coffee shop. It's not filling and costs a fortune." "Your treat," remember. George went dead silent. She started ticking off fingers, listing his perks like a savage. "Grade A investigator. You make more than 99% of the population. Free housing. Full healthcare for the whole family tree. Tuition covered. Travel comped. Plus those fat mission bonuses." She leaned in. "Can't you just expense this to the bureau? We're on the clock finding Shen, aren't we?" George let out a heavy sigh. "The perks are great. If you live long enough to retire." He side-eyed her. "But you're grade B. Why are you so broke?" She shut her eyes, dodging the question. "I have expenses." Cut to the table, groaning under a mountain of pastries. While she inhaled the food like a vacuum, George sat at the next table, back turned to her facing Shen. So George lowered his voice. "Any leads on my request? I know Brenda is a total mess right now." "How much do you know?" Shen probed. "That's it. That's all we've got," George admitted. "If this goes south, we're talking about an other-dimensional god. Total unpredictability. Even if it's not evil, just its presence would fry a normal human's brain." George wiped sweat from his brow, eyes shut tight. Worst-case scenario. Shen just rolled his eyes, smirking. "If the ritual is that big, how does the cult sacrifice a whole city without the entire world watching?" Shen went quiet, thinking back to Anna's warning about a new sacrificial ritual. The Chaos Cult doesn't have the juice for that, he thought. Anna had mentioned they were being hunted. Hush strike. Shen's sweat dropped, testing George. "You know them." A chill ran down George's spine. This guy knows everything. "Yeah," he managed. Hush strike. They hit the Anti-Magic Bureau hard. Heavy casualties. No idea what their endgame is. But if they aren't trying to nuke the city with a sacrifice, they're tomorrow's problem. George slid a box across the table. "I owed you one. This wipes the slate clean." Shen looked wary. "Does taking this mean I have to hunt down Anna for you?" "Just keep it," George insisted. In the background, Su Ling had decimated the feast. Only crumbs and a few scraps left. George turned back. "Did you turn down the job because it's too much heat?" "I'm not helping," Shen stated flatly. "But I will say this, the girl in the photo, she's not the enemy. Chaos Cult and Hush Strike are at each other's throats right now. That one's on the house." George stood up, nodding. "Understood. Thanks for the tip." He signaled Su Ling. "Let's roll." Su Ling, mid-bite of ice cream, waved at Shen. Box this up. Shen gave a polite smile. Sorry, no takeout boxes here. Su Ling froze, horrified. She whipped her head around to glare at George, who just closed his eyes, accepting his fate. Cut to George watching in shock as Su Ling angrily speed eats every last cupcake and sandwich out of pure spite. Rain lashed down as Shen stood looming outside the academy, clad in a slick raincoat and muttering to the storm. One goal, the library. Just past this checkpoint lay a treasure trove of over 700,000 volumes. No student ID, no problem. He'd just vaporize into mist and ghost his way in through the restroom vents. In that form, physics didn't apply. He could breeze through the tiniest hairline fracture, making a security window look like an open barn door. Big mistake. He materialized straight into the girl's bathroom. Cue the scream, cue the immediate stinging, slap across the face. Moments later, he was chilling outside wearing a stolen face and a fresh uniform, borrowing someone else's identity. Way too convenient. He breezed into the library eyes, scanning the shelves, hunting for one specific tome. Bingo. He cracked it open, needing dirt on the chaos cult. But as he started reading, cold sweat began to drip. These fanatics hadn't just prayed, they'd actually summoned the legendary Lord of Ashes. The text described pure apocalypse oceans boiling into steam skies choked with smog, and the earth scorched black. Shen realized he was nowhere near that power level yet. Back then, this cult was strong enough to topple an entire kingdom. They obliterated the military, leaving nothing but bodies in their wake. They executed the king, plundered the treasury, and abducted the royal women. Straight up nightmare fuel. They were the ultimate evil on the second largest continent. But even legends fall, the Corona Church nearly wiped them off the map. Shen slammed the book shut and shelved it. Just a washed-up cult that peaked centuries ago. He snagged another title, The Silent Language by Yale Verd. A relic from 100 years ago. Safe to assume the author was long gone. Here was the tea: some cults thrived on divine handouts, but most followers got zero perks, making recruitment a total grind. The only way to build a loyal army, exploit their paralyzing fear of death. That was the horror of Hush Strike. It wasn't monsters. It was regular people conducting rituals that defied logic. Their deity embodied winter itself, a symbol of absolute silence, finality, and the grave. While Shen was deep in the lore, footsteps crept up behind him through the stacks. He read on oblivious Hush Strike rituals, started by slaughtering a chosen sacrifice. The gift was eternal peace and silence. Truly disturbed stuff. But Shen paused. Was sacrificing a soul really that bad if it saved the city? Suddenly, logic flew out the window. Panic hit him like a truck. Someone was watching him. He spun around, sweating bullets. The stalker, none other than Baron. Baron stared him down, calling him Yasi, and dropping a bomb. Aren't you supposed to be on sick leave? Shen froze, eyes squeezing shut. He totally forgot whose face he was wearing. He scratched his head brain, scrambling for an excuse while Baron repeated the name. Shen cursed internally. Of all the students to impersonate, he picked one this guy actually knew. What are the odds he'd walked right into a trap? He plastered on a shaky smile, acting like running into a teacher was a pleasant surprise. Shen sized Baron up. This guy's scholarly aura was seriously throwing him off. He laughed it off, lying through his teeth. Oh, I'm feeling way better. Just here to meet a friend, actually. Then he grabbed his head, feigning a dizzy spell. Oof, actually, maybe the fever's back. I should bounce. Baron didn't look convinced. You should be resting, especially in this downpour. Then Baron's eyes locked onto the book in Shen's hand. The Silent Language, into the occult, now. Shen chuckled nervously, trying to play it cool. It's super interesting. I know it's fake, but it reads like a fantasy novel. Can't put it down. Baron raised an eyebrow. Funny. You don't show this much dedication in my math class. Ouch. Shen immediately shoved the book back on the shelf and tried to shuffle away. Yeah, not feeling well, gotta go. Mind if I walk with you? Baron asked. Shen stopped dead in his tracks. He squeezed his eyes shut, defeated. Sure. Fast forward to the corridor, the silence deafening. Baron paused. Hold up a sec. Need to drop something in the activity room. Shen, heart pounding, stood behind him with his eyes closed. No problem. He peeked one eye open, watching Baron like a hawk. Never in a million years did I expect to run into him here. Is Baron seriously a math professor at this academy? Or just some low-level lecturer? That sidekick he had earlier must be a student. I mean, the Baranda Empire Academy is basically the Ivy League of this world. Top tier. If Baron's actually tenured here, he's definitely rubbing shoulders with the upper crust of high society. Look at that poker face. I bet the faculty has zero clue they're employing a dangerous warlock with a double life. Speak of the devil. Baron rolls up, collapsing his umbrella. Apologies for the wait, he says, smooth as silk. Let's move. We trek across the soaked campus. Baron's got the umbrella, leaving me trailing in my raincoat. But something's off. Why is he bundled up in heavy layers like it's the Arctic in the middle of this humidity? I stare at his coat. Then it clicks. Dark arts. Astral projection. Messing with relics breaks your body. He's paying the price for violating nature's laws. That's why he's freezing to death. I freeze in my tracks. I decide to test him. Hey, I've read up on the occult. That book, The Silent Language, total trash, zero value. Baron stops dead. He doesn't flinch. You are correct, he replies, cool as ice while I keep my eyes glued to him. Silence hangs between us. I just checked the clue broom, Baron states flatly. Yase is safe at home. He reaches into his coat, flicks a scrap of paper into the downpour. Astral projection is handy, isn't it? Shame it only works on the weak and powerless. The paper hits the mud, the ink dissolves instantly, and the raindrops hitting it, they don't splash. They hover, transforming into shimmering pearl-like spheres. Baron turns around. I've cleared the area. No interruptions. His gaze hardens. 2 questions. He drills holes into me with his stare. Who are you, and what do you want? Speak. Cold sweat runs down my back. I stay silent. Baron snaps his fingers. Snap, and gravity just quits. The raindrops freeze midair. Silence, he sneers. Fine. I can interrogate your corpse just as easily. A massive glowing glyph ignites above our heads. It sucks in the rain, forming an impenetrable dome. A perfect barrier. I look up terrified as the magic circle expands until it engulfs the entire school block. Made up your mind, Baron warns. A rune burns into his right hand, ready to fire. But then, he freezes. A scent hits him. Thick fog erupts from where I'm standing. Baron's eyes widen. He knows this smell. It's the haze of the White Shore. He's shaking, gritting his teeth. He remembers sensing the outer god during the summoning. That was full power. The familiar he hunted was 10%. But this energy signature, it's somewhere in between. Stronger than a monster, but not quite the god itself. The spell circle shatters. The rain crashes down again. I apologize, Baron stammers, panic rising. I joined Hush Strike temporarily. I thought you were with the Anti-Magic Bureau. It was just a test. I didn't mean any harm. Hidden in the mist, I repeat his words back to him. You sensed the god simply because I shifted into this form. It all makes sense now. Every time I toggle these god powers, I'm leaking divine energy like a beacon. George, Anna, they all felt it. That's why Su Ling looked so terrified at the observatory. I deepen my voice, playing the part. I am the herald bound to serve the Great One. Tell me, why align yourself with Hush Strike? Baron drops to his knees. Only for the catastrophic class relic they promised. I intended to offer it as tribute to your magnificent god, he's shouting now, desperate. Even if I receive no divine knowledge, I beg of you, ask the Great One to look away from my daughter. Spare her. I close my eyes. Understood. The god has a new decree. Compile every scrap of intel on Hush Strike. Put it in the silent language. Baron hesitates. But why? My eyes flash with eldritch light. He flinches. He bows, his head defeated. It shall be done. I stride past him, leaving him shivering in the rain. He stands there, eyes closed, sweat mixing with rain. I'm sorry, old friend, he whispers into the void. Looks like I have to be a traitor again. He clenches his jaw. His pride is screaming, but his daughter comes first. He accepts his dark path. Cut to me sitting in a cafe, head in my hands. Just totally exhausted. Head down, staring at the table. Where the hell is George? He totally ghosted the coffee shop meetup. Chen's mind is racing. Hush Strike is plotting to wipe the board before the ritual kicks off. He needs to warn George Stat. And then there's the Anna situation. Flashback to 2 days ago. Fresh from the academy, he didn't expect Anna to pull up on him late at night. The tea, the summoning is tonight. And that dark fruit she mentioned, total mystery. But while he's deep in the mental sauce, a brunette slides into the booth right in his face. Zero personal space. She starts venting about her bestie, hating her guts. I've got literally no one else to talk to, she whines. Chen flashes a polite customer service smile. If you're really best friends, just ask her out and clear the air. Real talk fixes drama every time. He drops a charm-heavy wink. Got a blast, though. You should probably hurry home. The girl blushes like an anime character clutching her heart. She thanks him and sprints off, totally crushing on him. Chen checks his screen. It is 10 minutes to midnight. Showtime is almost here. Midnight strikes. 12 a.m. Silence. No demonic portals. Chen frowns. Did things go sideways on Anna's end? Cut to the enemy side. 11:30 p.m. The church hall. The high priest Anna and 3 shady dudes in hoods are staring down a corpse. It is the doctor, dead as a doornail. The high priest demands answers. Who punched his ticket? A brunette priest, looking like he is about to hyperventilate, confirms the kill. He is gone for real. I saw it with my own eyes. Hush Strike took him out cold. The high priest glances at Anna. Ice water in her veins. She is just a kid, but she is not flinching. Impressive composure. The high priest goes full sermon mode. The Lord of Ashes has eyes on us. This power-up is going to make the Chaos Cult absolutely god-tier, stronger than ever. The nervous priest jumps on the hype train. 2 months ago, we witnessed the Lord's greatness. Tonight is the new era, baby. We are all getting a taste of that glory. The high priest winds up for his big finish but choke. The brunette priest grabs his throat, gurgling, eyes watering, blood geysers from his mouth. Panic in the pews. The guy drops like a sack of potatoes, dead on impact. The mob freaks out, swarming the body. What is happening? Then the whole building starts vibrating. Chill out, the high priest bellows. Do not lose it. The ritual is still a go. Hush Strike has no divine backup. We are going to crush them. Bam. The doors fly open. A sentry stumbles in screaming at the top of his lungs. Outside guards, wasted. Some are just gone. I can only ping about half the squad. And the enemy invisible. The priests start sweating bullets. Pure terror in the room. Now the high priest is losing his cool. Evacuation time. A hooded muscle man screams, "Get the boss out now." The security team is shouting, demanding the high priest move immediately. The high priest snaps into survival mode. Security detail. Get everyone clear of this place. Regroup at the north shore of the River Thames. Move it or lose it. He snatches Anna's wrist. You are with me, kid. School is in session. Lesson 1 starts tonight. Anna, eyes wide with innocent curiosity, asks, where are we headed? To find the divine messenger. Intense stare. Anna glances back at the entrance. It is pouring rain, but dead silent. The vibes are off. She senses something approaching. Suddenly, boom! The walls and roof just disintegrate. Blinding flash. Hurricane force winds. The blast ragdolls the priests across the room. Blackout. Anna's body glows in the void. She squeezes her eyes shut, feeling a hollow emptiness in her chest. Floating in the abyss. Is this the Lord of Ashes? Is she meeting the messenger? Snap back to reality. She is buried under rubble. Beaten up but breathing. Her enhanced body saved her, but the pain is real. Probably broke a few ribs. She flexes in arm agony. She has to bail. With a primal scream, she bench presses the concrete slab off her chest. She sits up and splat, a severed hand lands right on her arm. She flinched, staring at the carnage. Was that? The high priest hand. Anna peered through the jagged gap in the shattered wall. I gotta get out of here. She bolted into the downpour, the mystic sigil branded on her back, searing like a hot iron. She'd let the burn lead the way. Behind her, a crimson gloom swallowed the ruins of the sanctuary. Agonized shrieks pierced the storm worshippers, begging for salvation, chanting praises to the Lord of Ashes as they burned. Anna didn't look back, sprinting toward the one place that might hold a divine messenger. Meanwhile, inside the cozy coffee shop, Shen leaned back, arms crossed. Is the anti-magic bureau mixed up in this mess? If they were, Anna was in deep trouble. He glanced at the door. He'd sworn she was here earlier when that knock came, but it was just some stray alley cat. The clock hit 3 in the morning. Staying up was pointless. George would probably drag himself in tomorrow anyway. If the bureau was involved, Shen needed to crash. Lights out. Outside, Anna stumbled to a halt. Soaked to the bone, she gasped. Finally, I'm here. Her legs gave out and she hit the pavement hard. I made it. But she wasn't alone. The Hush Strike squad had arrived. Cloaked in midnight blue robes, they materialized on the rooftop directly across from the shop. One brandished a sword engulfed in flames, locking eyes with Anna. Move it, sun's coming up, we're burning daylight. Anyone inside tries to play hero, consider it a declaration of war against Hush Strike. He pointed his blade at the shop. The script is written. Fate is sealed. No one defies the Almighty's will. Anna lay cold on the asphalt. A cat with piercing blue eyes padded over to her body, then glared up at the rooftop squad. Meow. The cat stuck its tongue out, a total mockery of their deadly vibe. One of the hooded killers faltered. His cheeks flushed pink. Oh my gosh, look at that bean, so cute. He violently shook his head. Focus, idiot, the mission comes first. No time for petting sessions. The squad leader radiated silent fury. The cat just stared back, unblinking. Those eyes, dead ringers for Su Ling's. Suddenly the shop door exploded with energy, a blinding mix of lightning haze and scorching fire. The raw power surged onto the street, flooding the pavement with supernatural dread. The cat hissed, bristling in terror. Up on the roof, the leader froze, the sheer weight of that aura, crushing his resolve. His eyes glazed over. As the fiery mist engulfed the street, the leader's hood slipped back, revealing a face pale with panic. Sweat poured down his face. Who runs this place? He screamed. This owner. He's a monster. I can smell it on him. The scent of 2 otherworldly gods clashing in one body. The pressure was suffocating. The squad trembled. Then the ground erupted with an even darker power. A titanic, blazing monstrosity clawed its way into reality, the seed of chaos. The assassins looked like insects next to this beast. They stood paralyzed on the roof, jaws dropped. Words failed them. One guy stuttered. What? What the hell is that thing? Heads were sprouting from its body like tumors, and the rain sizzled into steam before hitting the ground. It's the Lord of Ashes familiar, the seed of chaos. The leader snapped out of it. Scatter, run for your lives. One cultist scrambled for cover, glancing back. It's massive. It can't possibly move fast, right? Wrong. The beast blurred. Its cavernous maw snapped open, lunging straight for the leader. Chomp. The leader's scream was cut short by a geyser of blood. Another member watched in horror. It's too fast. Before he could blink, claws erupted from the darkness behind him. Splat. He was skewered blood, misting the air. Meanwhile, a third guy crouched in the shadows, smirking. It went for them. Suckers. Now's my chance to ghost. He barely twitched a muscle when the monster was instantly hovering right in his face. The smirk vanished. He couldn't even scream. Slash. Bisected. His top half slid cleanly off his bottom half. The last survivor pressed his back against a brick wall, shaking. Stay quiet. Just stay quiet. The heat spiked. The air grew heavy. He slowly turned his head toward the wall. Through a tiny crack in the bricks, a giant burning eye stared right back at him. Scrip lum. Silence followed the slaughter. The rain hammered down again, washing over Anna's unconscious form. With the squad liquidated, the beast stomped toward the girl. Anna's eyes snapped open. She looked up. Why is it burning up? She gasped, the heat becoming suffocating. Suddenly, a gaping maw loomed before her. She bolted upright, paralyzed by pure terror. Monster, her scream tore through the air. Scrambling backward in a panic, she crab-walked until her back slammed hard against the cold wall. Tears blurred her vision as the beast stalked closer, its body shuddering with a twisted sort of longing. Its gaze locked onto her, like a predator. Stay back, she thrust a hand out, desperate. Instantly, the air shimmered, a blinding golden aura erupted behind her back. Another halo of light materialized right on her raised palm. The creature froze, its jaw hanging slack. Time seemed to stop as the crimson sigil on Anna's back pulsed with light. Boom. The monster dissolved into a swirling inferno, crackling and roaring as the fire took hold. Rain hissed into steam instantly from the searing heat. The fiery mass shrank down and slammed into the pavement with a heavy thud. I did that, Anna stared, stunned. She could command the flame. Her mind raced to the legend of the Lord of Ashes, the entity dwelling in a dimension where golden fire devoured everything. A realm ignited during the hour of the apocalypse. 20 massive worlds had already been reduced to ash and void, an endless hungry inferno, burning until the end and beginning of time, the eternal flame of ruin. But then Twist the monster, still wrapped in fire, reformed. It started regenerating at a terrifying speed, flesh knitting together amidst the crackling blaze. It wasn't over. Just a little longer, Anna told herself, gritting her teeth. She couldn't give up now. If she held on, she could incinerate this thing for good. But as the beast stepped forward, her vision went black. She collapsed. Stomp. The creature's claw crushed the ground, snuffing out the mystical fire. Standing in the rain, looking down at her, the monster's thoughts shifted. So this is the Lord of Ashes' chosen one. It noted her injuries. She was vulnerable. A sitting duck, without protection. Poof. The terrifying beast shrank into a harmless blue-eyed cat. It glanced at Anna with indifference. Her fate. Not my problem. The cat strutted past her limp body and slipped into the coffee shop. Inside, Shen threw the door open, looking annoyed. What was that roar just now? He demanded. The cat just trotted toward him and let out a soft meow. Shen smirked. Yeah, that demonic sound definitely didn't come from this fuzzball. I'm checking outside, he muttered to himself. Sounded like a kaiju out here, he grumbled, stepping into the rain. Then he saw her. Anna unconscious against the pillar. Hey, panic surged. He rushed over, attacked. Just as I feared, the ritual went sideways. He grabbed her arm, checking her condition. It was bad. She was messed up. He scooped her up into his arms. Don't worry, I've got you. I'll save you. He carried her quickly inside. Hey, Furball, he called to the cat. There might be monsters nearby. If you see anything, scream your head off. Got it. The cat just squinted, totally unimpressed. Meanwhile, Shen started peeling off Anna's soaked clothes, chanting, I am doing this strictly to save her. Strictly medical. But as the layers came off, drip. Blood gushed from his nose and mouth. He was fighting a losing battle with his own hormones. Saving her. Just saving her. He sputtered through the blood. Suddenly he paused. Her wounds. They were knitting themselves back together. Cut to 10 in the morning. Anna sat on the bed, fresh casual clothes on, staring at the clock. Her mind replayed the night before, blacking out right in front of the Divine Messenger's cafe. She remembered waking up healed and clinging to Shen. He was bleeding from every facial orifice, yet he stood there like a rock. Cry all you want, he'd told her, ignoring his own blood loss. I can take it. I'm completely healed, she thought, swinging her legs off the bed. The Divine Messenger must have used his powers on me. She scanned a messy room. So this is how a cosmic entity lives, in human disguise. She walked out into the main cafe area. Shen was there, nursing his breakfast. She stood behind him. Thank you for saving me. Shen spun around, forcing a smile. You're up. Grab some food. But whoa, the dark circles under his eyes were massive. He looked like a walking corpse. Anna actually jumped back. Holy, are you even alive? Just pulled an all-nighter, Shen groaned, waving a hand. No big deal. She stepped closer. Even a divine messenger has limits. She realized she barely knew anything about this guy. Who are you really? She asked. Shen's gaze drifted away. He wasn't doing magic all night, he was on guard duty. He'd sat by the door, terrified the monster would come back for round 2. Staying alert like that, way harder than a late-night gaming marathon. At the crack of dawn, he'd sprinted to the library, digging into that clue about Baron. Once he confirmed it, he dropped a dime on Hush Strike to the Anti-Magic Bureau. Those guys act like a boring office, but they're the real deal. Even their own families think they push paper for a living. Perfect cover. Luckily, dropping George's name proved he wasn't just some drunk crackpot. Mission accomplished, he'd raced back to whip up breakfast for Anna. Shen was running on empty, feeling the crash hitting him hard right after the first bite of breakfast. Between chews, he nudged Ina to spill the tea on last night's chaos. Ina shot up like a soldier, hitting him with a stiff, understood. Shen rolled his eyes, telling her to chill out and just talk while she ate. As Ina broke down the events, Shen started sweating bullets, realizing the monster she was describing sounded suspiciously like that creepy artifact Baron had forced on him. He told her to pause a second. Ina clocked his ghost-white face immediately, asking if he was going to pass out. He waved her off, claiming he was solid, while internally screaming, wondering if that cursed object had actually vanished. Ina clenched her fists, locking eyes with the divine messenger, ready to get real about the cult. She had been through the ringer lately, and had been replaying the high priest's words on a loop. She realized the cult wasn't just black and white villains. It was messy, but she was still grinding to fix it from the inside. The hard truth. The cult had to exist, or the orphanage would go under. There were too many adults in the mix, and the politics were a nightmare, but she was drawing a hard line: absolutely zero living human sacrifices, and no more non-consensual surgeries. Looking at her feet, she admitted she didn't have the full picture yet, but she had done the math. Nothing was simple, and she knew she needed serious power and hustle to hit her goals. She figured time would fill in the blanks. Shen closed his eyes, processing. This girl had been through hell. Watching her, he realized she was just an uneducated kid on paper, but her level up was insane. Munching on his toast, he flashed back to his first summon, where she was just a sobbing mess on the floor. Round 2, she showed guts, and now she was thinking like a leader. Her emotional glow-up was god tier. His eyes snapped open, staring at her, wondering if this truly was the legendary Witch of Flesh and Blood. Cue the entrance of a blue-eyed cat. Ina's face lit up, blushing hard, squealing about the cute kitty. She dropped to the floor, getting face-to-face with it, asking for a name. Shen slid down next to her, stalled for a second, then improvised cola. The cat pulled a perfect innocent face as Shen told Ina to give it some love, claiming it was super chill, mostly because he needed a nap. Ina gently stroked the cat's ear, telling Shen to go recharge. Suddenly, the cat's mouth ripped open, morphing into a jagged eldritch nightmare. Ina lost all color, let out a blood-curdling scream, and scrambled back against the wall, shaking like a leaf. Shen, halfway to his room, froze at the sound. He peeked around the corner, asking if the furball had scratched her, or if she was bleeding. Ina, tears welling up, pointed a trembling finger at the cat, whimpering that it terrified her. Instantly, the cat snapped back to innocent mode, looking at Shen and meowing sweetly. Shen patted its head, cooing, "Good kitty," before rubbing its chin and whispering a dark threat if it scratched or bit her, he would turn it into a crispy snack. He announced he was crashing and told them to play nice. Ina's brain started racing. This was the divine messenger's pet, so he definitely knew what it was, meaning the monster probably wasn't hostile. The cat spun around and shot her a death glare. Ina panicked, screaming Shen's name. She scrambled up, latched onto his arm, and begged to go to his room. Shen turned beet red at the contact, stuttering that she could read some books in there. Meanwhile, in a shady alley near the cafe, George was walking with Su Ling. He sighed, convinced this man was pulling everyone's strings. Claiming it didn't matter if it was them, the cults, or the city, they were all just NPCs in his game. Su Ling, still snacking, told the old man to quit whining and asked what intel he left at the library. George closed his eyes, revealing it was the blueprint to completely wipe out Hush Strike from Veranda. He reminded her they were there to beg for Shen's help, and told her to inhale her food so they could go in. Su Ling asked if she could munch while entering. George, heading for the door, explained that bringing outside snacks was bad for business, and the owner would hate it. Moments later, inside the cafe, Su Ling was sweating over the menu, realizing they were going Dutch this time. The cat, perched on the table behind her, was locking eyes with George. George started sweating, nervously wondering what the cat's beef was, since he had never punted a cat in his life. Suddenly, the thing started hissing. Shen arrived with the coffee, asking if the library info was up to their standards. George dropped the bomb they were planning a raid tonight, but the enemy was OP, capable of rebuilding a cult overnight, and crazy enough to hit the Anti-Magic Bureau. They clearly had dirty tricks, and with the death rate looking sky high, they needed Shen as their ace. Shen sat down, looked them dead in the eye, and gave a hard pass. He demanded to know what George was smoking, because he had zero intention of dying today. A scorching inferno engulfed Shen's hand, the flames dancing dangerously as he lowered his arm, deciding it was time to put the fear of God into them. Wreathed in that blazing aura, his golden eyes burning with intensity, he stared daggers at the pair and dropped a truth bomb. "You humans are way too greedy." Su Ling froze, shaking like a leaf in a storm. George realized she was about to snap from the pressure, so he snatched her up by the collar like an unruly kitten. Hoisting her into the air, he muttered a quick apology for crossing the line and promised they were bouncing immediately. Furious Su Ling drove her fist right into George's gut. Shen let out a heavy sigh. She had nearly gutted him just then. Suddenly, Anna's head popped out from behind the wall. "Are the customers gone?" she chirped. Shen spun around, plastering on his best polite smile. "All clear," he lied smoothly, explaining that it wasn't exactly safe for her to be hanging around those types. He told her to lay low, reassuring her that the drama was over for today, and ordering her to stay put inside the coffee shop. Rising from his chair, a dark thought crossed his mind. Bodies were going to drop tonight. He could sense a puppet master pulling strings from the shadows. What a twisted game, he mused, finding the whole lethal situation strangely entertaining. Outside, the rain poured down like bullets, matching the chaotic brawl raging between the Hush Strike Squad and the Anti-Magic Bureau. The Bureau had stormed the Hush Strike turf in Miranda, turning the residential streets into a total kill zone with weapons clashing everywhere. It was anarchy. Agents were scrapping on the slick rooftops, while grunts traded blows in the mud below. One Hush Strike goon summoned magic knives, sneering at George. "Your little club is finished once I end you." But before the guy could even twitch, George swung his closed umbrella like a baseball bat. Crack. He flattened the guy instantly. George realized this wasn't just a random scuffle. This was a setup. They were waiting for them astral traps everywhere and summoned monsters on standby. Plus, all their investigators got jumped right after clocking out. He stepped forward, putting the puzzle pieces together in his head. 2 events, 1 conclusion. We've got a rat in the Bureau. Tapping his earpiece, he grilled his comms support. Standard astral projection caps at 2 hours max right. He needed to locate the sacrificial ritual site yesterday, or this whole situation was going south fast. Scanning the rainy sky, he wondered where Yale Varade was lurking, shocked he actually pulled that intel from the library archives. He never expected to run into him again in this mess. Suddenly, a grotesque insect monster lunged out of the darkness. Su Ling didn't flinch. She tapped the wall, then slashed her blade in a blur of steel, severing the beast's hand instantly. She stuck the landing, spun around, and her eyes started glowing with raw power. The monster shrieked and rushed her, but she was faster. Pointing her sword, she commanded drop. The creature slammed into the pavement like it weighed a ton, engulfed in a neon purple and blue magical field. Su Ling's eyes blazed as the monster's body detonated inside the energy cage. As the beast dissolved, the light faded. Su Ling grimaced. The cost of activating the Blade of Gaia was basically playing roulette with her bones. A sharp agony spiked in her ribs, probably a fracture, but she forced herself to keep moving. Suddenly, zap, a lightning bullet slammed into her chest. She didn't stop, barely registering the impact, knowing she had to push through. The shooter, a Hush Strike agent lurking by the wall, lowered his weapon. He looked confused, wondering why she wasn't dead on the floor. Su Ling stood tall, dusting herself off and explaining, "Perks of the Bureau Eldritch Blood Injection. It pushes the body to level 2. Your little toys can't hurt me." The man didn't talk. He just raised his longsword and charged. Su Ling sprinted to meet him. They ran past each other in a blur, swinging their blades with lethal intent. Steel clashed against steel with a deafening screech. They passed each other, backs turned. But Su Ling spun on her heel, launching into a mid-air strike at the guy's blind spot. He was too slow to turn. She slashed his arm open, gritting her teeth, her eyes burning with fury. She kept the pressure on, hacking away to finish him, when suddenly, the guy's body warped. A vile, gunky waxworm monster burst out of his mouth, total nightmare fuel. The monstrosity flopped onto the ground in front of her. She pointed her sword again, fall. The purple aura wrapped around it. But nothing happened. Not enough, Su Ling panic thought. Blood trickling from her lips, she screamed the command again with everything she had. Boom. A massive lightning bolt nuked the monster, obliterating it and shattering the concrete beneath. Smoke clearing, Su Ling clutched her shattered ribs. That was way too close. She whipped out a vial of K233 miracle blood for rapid healing and jammed it into her arm. Breathing heavy, she radioed, "George, problem handled. I'm clear." Path was clear. George shot her a knowing look, pointing out that even though they were partners, he knew she preferred the lone wolf playstyle, seeing as she ghosted him the second the battle popped off. Su Ling whipped around, cutting him dead. "I don't have time for your lectures," she snapped, insisting they hunt down the priest yesterday. George threw up a mock salute. "Aye aye, Captain Su Ling," silently noting these rookies were trying way too hard to prove themselves. He stepped up, signaling the squad behind him. He addressed the team, thinking it was a damn shame Nolan's only S-tier hitter, Emery, was out of town on business. This raid would be a total cakewalk if that absolute beast was here to carry them. He realized Yale Varade was basically immortal, which meant there was only one win condition left on the table: finding an opening to unleash the second blade, absolute death. Meanwhile, inside the sanctuary, the priest clutched the faded cross, jagged shards of black crystal orbiting him like dark asteroids. He lounged on his throne, proclaiming that Miranda had become ground zero for a direct line to God. The Hush Strike cultists, decked out in matching blue hoods, stood like statues behind him, radiating creepy obedience. The priest ranted that the name would become everyone's name, and the voice would become the universal command. He rose, ascending a staircase of crackling lightning that materialized step by step beneath his feet. He started spouting titles, calling himself the Guide to Peace King of Praisers, the Eternal Peace Giver, Classic Savior Complex. Reaching the ceiling, he thrust the eternal faded cross upward, screaming prayers from the depths of his soul, begging for divine grace. Boom, blue lightning enveloped him, blasting him straight through the church roof, leaving him hovering in the storm rain, lashing against the eerie blue glow surrounding the cross. He prayed for eternal silence. Suddenly, a massive magic circle lit up the dark clouds and the entire anti-magic squad, except for George and Su Ling, dropped to the dirt, clutching their skulls in agony. George stared up at the swirling lightning, watching the sky tear open. It's starting, he gritted out. Only he and Su Ling were strong enough to tank the pressure and actually move. Then his eyes went wide. The sky wasn't just stormy, it was alive. Dark horrors started pouring out of the clouds like a nightmare. Meanwhile, at a chill coffee spot, Shen was passed out in a chair snoring away while his cat ignored him from a nearby table. Just a normal afternoon until, ping, notification, someone is summoning an other-dimensional god. Shen blinked out of existence instantly. The cat spun around to an empty chair, freaked out, let out a terrified meow, and bolted at full speed. Anna stood there frozen, asking the empty air if the divine messenger was still around. The vibe she got back. Run. Back in Biranda, the storm had turned into a deluge rain hammering the earth. The lightning circle expanded, covering the whole zone and raining down crystal shards like deadly hail. With the priest floating high above, George locked on. Gotcha, he muttered. The conditions to trigger the third blade were green. The weapon materialized in his grip, and he launched it straight at the target. Bullseye. The priest gasped as the steel punched through his chest, blood spraying from his mouth and the wound. But George cursed under his breath. That wasn't a kill shot. The range was too far to finish the job. The second blade absolute death was their ace, but it was a gamble, easy to miss, easier to parry. Su Ling gripped her sword ready to charge, but George yanked her back by her hair before she could suicide rush the enemy. Chill out, he barked. It's useless. We're too late. She started to snap back, furious, but then froze. Dead silence. George looked up. Shen had arrived, descending from the heavens like a literal deity, masked up and dressed like a dapper gentleman. George squinted. Was this the legendary Silence of the Striker? A skull mask. George wondered if this figure matched the lore described in the silent language. Meanwhile, Shen thought showtime. Then gravity hit. He gritted his teeth. Why wasn't he stopping? Panic mode set in. If I turn to mist before impact, I won't go splat. Suddenly, he stuck the landing on the magic circle. Safe. Before him, the priest knelt in total reverence on the lightning platform, clutching the cross and hailing Shen Guide to Peace, King of Praisers, provider of eternal peace. The priest offered up the eternal faded cross, begging this god to bless them with true eternal peace. Shen smirked internally. Astral projection totally fits these hush-strike weirdos brand. Then he recalled the rulebook. Every god grants their worshippers something unique. Let's see what happens. The striker stood as the symbol of the winter-blessed worshippers, promising not just peace but the eternal stillness of the void. But get this, the worshippers weren't chasing death. They were chasing a divine reboot from a god. Their goal, to be permanently numb, zero desire, zero emotion. Imagine an existence with no pain, no struggle, no rage, and no craving. But the trade-off, no joy, no hype, no love, just nothing. Shen couldn't wrap his head around it. What's the point of existing if you don't actually live? The priest stared up at him, his face twisted into a grotesque mask of desperate hope. To Shen, the guy was just another tragic mortal. He accepted the offering, his mind drifting to the mechanics of the Fade Cross. The logic was simple. Once he accepted a sacrifice while cosplaying as a god, the loot became his by default, finders keepers. But visually, the scene was intense. Shen and the priest stood inside a small spell circle, while a massive complex formation loomed overhead, slicing through the storm and keeping the rain from touching them. Then Shen dropped the bomb. As for the priest's wish, denied. The old man froze absolute shock, shattering his expression. Shen was already calculating his exit. He could shift into a haze, he just needed to keep his shields up until the summoning timer hit 0. Last time, a mere whiff of his scent made George back down. But right now, he was sitting dead center in a summoning ritual. His aura was nuclear. No one would dare cross him with this kind of power flowing. A grin spread across Shen's face as he clenched his fist, buzzing with adrenaline. Finally, he had the juice to shut these cultists down. His grin hardened into a scowl as he pressed his lips together. Hurt Anna, threaten the whole city, didn't matter. Shen wasn't giving this guy a crumb. The answer was a hard no. The priest stared up, pleading with his eyes, but Shen delivered the verdict. He was rejecting peace for him, forever. The priest's lips went white. Suddenly, deep wrinkles carved themselves into the priest's face. He started screaming why over 20 times, panic taking over. It was like fast-forwarding a lifetime. The priest withered into a skin-and-bones old man still screaming, while the spell circle beneath him began to flicker and die. The priest collapsed. Shen watched him drop, thinking, yeah, a fanatic like that definitely wasn't one of the good guys. Loot secured. Shen reached out, fingers grazing the freeze raindrop floating in front of him. He figured his time was almost up, so he decided to hang in the air for a few more seconds, soaking it in. Dead silence. Then the falling priest shrieked at the sky, begging the mighty god from another dimension not to ghost him, pleading for that blessing of eternal peace. Shen ignored the noise, clenching his fist as he scanned the hall below. He needed to know if every single cultist was trapped inside. Thank God they were. Time's up, he whispered. Peace out. The freeze raindrop hung suspended in the sky as Shen vanished, the giant spell circle dissolving into nothingness above. Down on the ground, George called it. The god has left the building. He thought about the hush strike and shook his head. They messed up. Big time. It was pure arrogance trying to hustle a dimensional god for eternal peace. What a joke. Talk about a shame. Suddenly, George's earpiece flared to life. He muttered that humans can only ever view gods through their own twisted lenses. He glanced up, listening to the city sounds returning. He tapped his comms. Target is gone. Begin the arrest. Now. Su Ling didn't hesitate. She bolted immediately to round up the others. George watched her go. That girl's got grit. He spun to his squad. Go back her up. I'm handling the priest solo. He's too volatile for you guys. His team sweating bullets didn't argue. They stayed silent as George walked away. Prowling the dark alley, George figured the priest had to be dead or wrecked after that magical backlash. He was just clearing corners. Suddenly there he was, the priest, leaning against the wall, staring right at him. George didn't flinch. Goodbye, old friend. He jammed the tip of his umbrella against the priest's chest. But tell me, you aren't Yale Verd, are you? George's mind raced. Was the intel from the coffee shop a total lie? Meanwhile, Shen materialized back in his shop, still decked out in the same ritual costume. He crouched down in front of his cat, Cola. Guess I'm just like you, furball. No sleep for the wicked. He scratched her chin, while Cola looked at him like, where the heck did you come from? Shen grinned. I know. I've been swamped. Kept forgetting about you. He promised to make it up to her soon. Cola lost it, purring, rubbing against him, letting out a soft mew. Shen scooped her up, heart melting. She's so clingy today. Gotta buy her the premium wet food. Just then, the door opened. Anna, divine messenger. She looked frantic. I have to leave. Soon. Her cult had tracked her down. They were demanding she return immediately. And the bombshell, the high priest, survived the attack. He claimed the cult needed her, that the children needed her. Shen stood there, clutching Cola's silence, filling the room. Shen was fantasizing about finally crashing in his own bed, letting out a laugh as he playfully slapped Cola's leg. He casually mentioned Anna could crash for a few more days, but when she lit up with excitement, Shen instantly panicked. Dude only said that to be polite. Breaking into a nervous sweat, he averted his eyes, desperate to pivot. So, what's the game plan for the Chaos Cult? She didn't hesitate. I'm confronting the High Priest. We need a squad revolution, not just one person calling the shots. It's all about what the majority wants. Shen flashed a grin, nodding along. Now that's a solid vibe. He gave her the green light to return to base. Anna stepped up, getting emotional. Thanks for the save, and for looking out for me. Her expression tightened with resolve. Inner monologue activated. I'm gonna make the divine messenger famous worldwide. Everyone needs to witness his god-tier wisdom. A beat later, Shen yawned, totally drained. Alright, I'm cooked. Hitting the sheets. Out of nowhere, Clang the Fate Cross ricocheted off the wall, bounced and smack bullseyed Shen's toes. Shen let out a scream of pure rage. Behind him, Cola started sweating nervously as Shen snatched up the cursed artifact. I have zero clue how to use this thing. He needed to grind some supernatural lore, but the library's info was basically useless. Whatever, shelving that. Time to playtest his new abilities. He'd felt a weird shift when he returned. His left palm felt icy cool. Wait, brain blast. He slammed his fist on the desk. The coffee cup rattled and tipped over the edge. Shen's mind raced. Is this that same freeze frame glitch from the rain? Eyes locked on the falling cup, he shot his hand out. Freeze instantly, the mug hung, suspended in midair. Shen got hyped. It works, same power, but the effect was blink and you miss it fast. Meanwhile, Cola hissed, launching a full-on tackle. Shen whipped around, panic setting in. Yo, what the?